Good morning. Hi, everyone. I'm not really sure if anyone is going to come, but I wanted to say hi. I figure people can watch this later if they have any questions. Um, yeah, I'll get kicked off with questions that I've already received. And if I see any more come in, I'll answer those as well. Excuse me while I try and figure out where I'm meant to look and what I'm doing. Yeah, it's not something I'm very used to, so thank you for your patience. So I want to firstly say thank you very, very much to everyone who has supported the Kodo Book Translation Project. I am endeavoring to raise enough funds to professionally translate and publish the English version of Kodo's Japanese book. So this is the book. The original is only available in Japanese, and it was published in 2011. Um, so yeah, I saw them compiling this book. It features a lot of interviews, a lot of stories from Kodo's precursor, Sado no Kuni Ondekozan, so a group that formed in the early 70s on Sado, and then later changed to become Kodo, which debuted in 1981. So this is the group's 30th anniversary book, and yeah, that was 12 years ago. The group turns 42 this year. So this book, I've really wanted people to be able to read it. For quite a few years, this was compulsory reading for anyone applying to the Kodo Apprentice Centre. Um, and because it's all on paper for foreign people to read and write an essay about this book, they needed a high level of Japanese, but also, it's just not very accessible for anyone who's a non-native Japanese speaker. If you've ever tried to read Japanese that is not digital, you'll understand that it's difficult to look up kanji in a dictionary when you can't copy and paste it into a dictionary. Um, Also, if I know everyone's talking about Chat GPT and AI and how translation is going to, die as an industry. It's not true. One of the reasons I'm very sure about that is that if you used machine translation to translate this book, it would not be an accurate translation. There's absolutely no way. So one of the fundamental reasons for that, the Chat GPT, I know that it can do marvelous things. And what I'm saying is that, DeepL or Google Translate, those types of AI, they don't know the information that is made implicit in Japanese. So Japanese is a really highly implicit language. They don't say all the things that we say in English. So you don't need a subject, you can just have a verb. You don't need to be clear about whether things are singular or plural. So you could use the same sentence for a dancer enters the stage to the same sentence would be dancers enter the stage. Both are going to be dancer ga butaijo ni toujou shimasu. And as an English speaker trying to translate Japanese, you have to ask a lot of questions. And you also need to have a lot of background knowledge. Hi, Jessie. Hi, Mummy. Um, and so you can't, if someone who didn't know Kodo and didn't know Japanese well and didn't ask a lot of questions translated this book, there would be a mismatch in the information that is shared because they would be making assumptions rather than clarifying things. The thing is that if I translate this, I know about Kodo's history already, so I'm going to be able to translate it faster and more easily than a lot of people. There's also, it's important to, considering time is money. I know a lot of people think that the budget for this is huge. To be honest, I cut around $20,000 off the budget because I was told to lower my crowdfunding goal to make it successful. So I would be translating this at a huge discount. But this isn't all just money that comes into me. There's the fees for my translation, which will include an incredible lot of checking with not only Kodo, but there's a lot of interviews in here. So for example, the people who were interviewed, they don't need to speak super clearly like we do in English. It's subjects, the things that are implied have to be out in the open for English to make sense. If English is too vague, we lose interest very quickly. So I will need to be checking with people anything that is not clear, which happens a lot. That's a lot of my day as a Japanese to English translator, looking for the subject, checking timing, is this something that already happened, or just making sure that the English readers are on the same page. I really want people to be able to have a conversation about Kodo or about Taiko or about anything that this book brings up without Japanese speakers and English speakers having read a different story. And so I looked at I looked at a thread on Reddit about book translation, people going, oh, well, you could get it done cheaper. And I'm like, well, if you look for someone to do this cheaply, the publisher wouldn't agree because they know it wouldn't be good quality. Like they deal with a lot of translators. I went and had an interview session with them. It took a long time to build a trust relationship and for them to give me the translation rights to this book. And of course, Kodo needs to agree to someone translating their story as well. So they agreed very quickly, like instantly, yes, we can't think of anyone better to translate the book. So, I know I will be spending a lot of time on this translation. There will also be just checking with all the people like that what they've said. I want to make sure that it's a accurate translation and that it depicts what was intended. The message has to be captured. And so also there will be, as one of the conditions of my contract, there will also be another certified native English speaking translator, a good colleague of mine. She's going to check the translation. Everyone makes typos, everyone makes mistakes, but also because Japanese is highly implicit and English is very explicit, we often collaborate and check each other's work. So last year we collaborated on a book that I was helping translate, a photo book. That book is about Cambodian refugees who moved to Japan and the objects that they brought with them. It's an amazing book. I'd love to share that in a separate post. It's a photo exhibition that has been traveling around the world. It's called Kim Hak Alive. And translating about Cambodian history as told in Japanese into English, it took us a long time to get it right. I'm very proud of the work that we've done. There were also people's personal stories, and because if they're not, when you read them in Japanese, you need to ask a lot of questions. I heard the same in German. I don't actually speak German, but the people are often like hunting for the information that we need for it to make sense in English. So based on that, I was able to do a pretty accurate quote, I think, for this book. To have the people involved, myself, the translation checker, proofreader, there will also be an extra editor. Sorry, just for the English, making sure that the flow is as good as it can be. This book is paper, so, if there's any errors, they had to put a little piece of paper in the back. This one that I'm doing will be print on demand, but I want it to be good from the get-go so that everyone who receives it can feel confident that it is a good translation of this book. Hi Jess, hi Liz. Oh, it's so nice to see you as well. And so the process is going to be super thorough to double, triple check that the English book is something that people can read and be confident that they're getting the story as intended. So I will be talking a lot with Kodo and the interviewees during this as required. And yeah, unfortunately, some people have passed away since this book was published, so I won't have the chance to talk to everyone who contributed to this book. Some other people they interviewed in English, so I'll be looking to see if I can get the actual English transcripts to work off for this book. And this book also, it features a lot of history as well. Like in this section here, they've listed Kodo's history. Oh, sorry, this way. Alongside key events that were happening in the world. So you can see how the Kodo was progressing in its journey, and also key things that were happening at that time, which I find really useful. Like, for example, in 2011, when the book was published, here, so it's got what was happening for Kodo in 2011, and then it has New Zealand earthquake, Tohoku, Japan earthquake, and then really local, Fukaura Shogakko, so Fukaura Elementary School closed, and this later went on to become, it's currently called Fukaura Schoolhouse, and it's a facility where people can do live-in workshops for all kinds of things. Like you can rent it as a facility to go and do team building or camps or that sort of thing. I think it's going to be starting up again after some, they stopped doing accommodation during the pandemic. So I think that's going to be starting up again really soon. I'm losing track. I'm looking to see if there's any more questions, but I haven't seen any come in. So I'll just keep going with what I had in mind. I've got all these post-it notes as people ask me things, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to make the campaign page super long. I really thought it would be good to just answer some questions and also open up the conversation if people want to send questions in the comments, or if they want to send them to me personally, that I can answer those questions. The campaign has 10 days to go. Hi, Kaz. Hi, Maria. Campaign has 10 days to go, and I'm currently at 38% funded. So, yeah, I honestly, I really don't know how this is going to go. I realize, Jessie's sitting here. She's like, I have to read this book. I feel so strongly about that too. But it's difficult for me to know how this is going to go. If the support's not there, then I totally understand, that giving a year of my life to translate this book is possibly not a great idea. For me as a business, it's not viable. So I'm doing this campaign through PledgeMe. It's been a great learning experience. People always say that about things that have been super tough, but it's also been really inspiring. I get these emails with just the amount. It doesn't have a name of who's donated to me, to this book. And when I see the amount, it's like every time it just kind of smacks me in the face, that people want to help the story become accessible. I think that for me, I feel more strongly than ever, and that's saying something. I've spent 12 years wanting to translate this book. I haven't been able to do it. The main reason is that Kodo can't afford to translate this book. It's not a priority for them, I guess. And that's purely for the money. Like, they would love for this to be translated into English. They spend all their time talking about connecting with people around the world, but they really have to focus on the touring side of things. As you know, the arts have been super hard hit with the COVID pandemic, but actually groups like Kodo and I'm sure a lot of groups in the arts, ever since 2008, things have been quite rough. Just people pulling finances out of the arts. Also, people, when times are tough economically, people stop going to the theatre. They, consider that a luxury. Part of the reason I want to share this story is to encourage people to come back to not just this performance, but the arts in general. I feel that, without supporting the arts, we will lose them and our lives will not be nearly as good, like nearly as good, without music, without arts. And so I think by sharing stories like this, as well as like the autobiographies or biographies, documentaries about people that are using the arts to try to make the world a better place, to promote peace, happiness. I think sharing those stories and encouraging people not only to learn more about different art forms, but also encourage them to the theatre, encourage them to play music, and to really enrich their lives, I guess, and really work on building that happiness, because it's very easy for us to think it's too expensive, I don't have time, that's a luxury. And actually, if we deny ourselves that kind of happiness building influence in our lives, the outlet of music, I think that, it's kind of like, what's the point? It's pretty easy for things to get big, right? When you're like, I'm so passionate about things. But with this book, primarily when they were publishing the book, I just thought so many people are being left out, and that really, it continues to break my heart. There are so many taiko players around the world, and there's so much cool information. Like there's a magazine that gets, I think it's every month gets published, called Taikology. If you can't read Japanese, it's on paper. How do you access that information? This book is also about access, and so one of the things, I totally agree. Music is so important, Jess. Like, I really admire what you're doing with the community musicals in your new area. And same with Maria, who's also watching. She's my cousin and a wonderful flautist, and she leads a choir and a music department of, it looks like an amazing program here in New Zealand at a high school. And so, with this book, just knowing that it's like, oh, well, this is only available for Japanese people, I just find that so sad that, it'd be like if Eric Clapton published a book and these guitar players in other countries are like, I can't read it. I like really want to get that knowledge and learn from that, but also like just talk about it, really open up conversations with other people. And so I feel like this story, it's not just for taiko players by any means, but I think that if you are able to learn fully, like as fully as Japanese people have the chance to learn about Kodo, a lot of groups, they only exist based on either Sado no Kuni Onde Koza, Kodo Onde Koza, those earlier groups. And I think being able to learn about all of them is really, really, really valuable. But also, it will bring up new questions. So people will be able to, join the conversation or contact people and ask for questions, ask questions, It's not like this has all the answers. It's just, this is the story. If there's something missing, you ask a question. If there's something that's really cool and you think, actually, I want to try and incorporate that into my life, or I want to finally launch my own project, because this book is about like kind of like a pretty crazy startup to think like we're going to gather people on Sado Island, young people, and we're going to create like a university of, Japanese culture and bring people from rural city areas to come to the countryside and learn from the source rather than learning so removed from that nature and those festivals and all of those things, you know. So yeah, I think just being able to learn about, I think, you know, when I say that taiko groups, a lot of them, they kind of exist because they looked at these groups. It doesn't go for everyone, of course. You know, there's a lot that are centered around temples, are centered around festivals. But there's also a lot of taiko groups that have watched a kodo performance and modeled their own group on that kind of setup. Stage performing arts, like taiko music for stage. And, you know, Kodo is a pioneer in that. Putting taiko on stage is not a traditional thing in Japan. You know, taiko was one of the accompaniments for a festival, for a kabuki. It was not center stage. It wasn't the main attraction, you know. So that has really been a new genre that has opened up. Yeah, and it's thriving, and it's so great to see so many people around the world that are, you know, really enjoying taiko. And I've always wanted to help more people to be able to learn more so that they're not left out of that knowledge, that conversation, and those chances. So that's how I originally met Kodo, was that the first time I went to see Kodo, it was a long time coming. Like, I'd been looking forward to seeing them, but the timing never worked on their tours. And so I went to Sado Island in 2004 and I attended their festival, Earth Celebration. And it was amazing, like absolutely amazing. And before I went, though, one of the Kodo members, Chieko Kojima, came to my group. I was playing taiko in Matsuyama, and that's in Ehime and Shikoku. And she came to teach a dance, which was very difficult for me. I was like, it was pretty comedy for me trying to do that dance. But, you know, we were talking afterwards, and I said I was going to Earth Celebration to see Kodo for the first time. And she said, oh, please come along to my workshop. And I said, well, actually, I applied and I didn't get in, but I see that you only teach in Japanese. Like it said, Japanese only for language. And so I said, if you need an interpreter, I'd be happy to help out and observe, you know, like I'll love to help other people enjoy that. And so I ended up doing that. And the following year, I went back and helped with translation for an exhibition. And yeah, that was with Yoko Fujimoto. She was putting an exhibition together at Earth Celebration of Ainu arts and crafts, so from indigenous people from Hokkaido. The following year, I went back and worked at the Isi Information Center because they need a lot of bilingual staff for an international festival. And it was just so great being able to help people enjoy the festival in the same way that people in Japan, like Japanese speakers or Japanese people, could understand everything and enjoy it fully. Yeah, I was working to do that. And so, you know, now as a professional translator, interpreter, it's often just about helping people communicate. And I feel that the story, it's about access to, you know, people around the world who would love to read this book. And inclusion, you know, bring them into the conversation, you know. And if that inspires them to do completely unrelated projects or to play instruments or, you know, all the things. I'm like, anything that this makes someone think, right, I'm going to give this a try. I mean, it's called, you know, inochi moyashite tatakeyo. Literally, it's like, you know, burn your life force and drum, go for it. So, you know, I'm calling it drum your heart out because it's putting that passion into something and just really just going for it, you know? Inochi, your life, you've got that one life, you want to use it. I would have loved to have translated this book sooner. The main issue, budget. Also the fact that, you know, I've had health issues. I wasn't able to take on a project that's going to really, be so consuming. And I'm self-employed. So, when people look at the budget, it's like, well, no, that's not all coming to me. We're paying the other translator who will be working with me, the editor, cover design. There will be someone doing layouts, help to get the not crowdfunding, the self-publishing set up and all of those things. And then, yeah, so I think, I've spent a couple of years getting this campaign ready. There's been a lot of conversations, a lot of preparation. I've put a lot of time and effort into this already. So, while it may seem like a large amount, it's actually, it's like $25,000 less than I think it should be. But it's fine. It's just like that's me putting I'm putting in as much as I can, and I need help I need the support of the community if we're going to make this possible. I can already read the book, so there has to be a limit to I can't take a year off work and translate the book. I think a lot of people who do those kind of passion projects, they have a partner who pays all their bills, which I do not. So if you would like to read this book, and also there's a lot of people who are contributing who would like for other people to have a chance to access the story. That's the goal, really, is that anyone who wants to be able to read this book has the chance, and English is the best chance. It's, yeah, we can't I'm sure it's not going to get translated into all the languages. It's tough enough me trying to get this translated into English. It's been a struggle to get to this point. I'm super grateful for the support that's come in. But I do realize that there are so many people who will be able to read this if it's in English. Yeah, thank you so much for your lovely comments, Jess. I feel I hope, yeah, I feel super passionate about this, and I'm just really hoping that I find enough supporters in time. It's an all or nothing campaign. If the money doesn't come in, I'm going to have to shelve it. I'm a self-employed person. I will need to shelve it and figure out if it's possible or if it's not, to be honest. And so, yeah, if you are able to share this campaign, that would be amazing. I'm finding that email and like direct messages is the most effective. People do not find the content easily on Facebook. I know that, there's a lot of people in marketing say the organic reach is like 3%. So, yeah, sorry for a huge lie. Actually emailing people and sharing it with them is amazingly helpful. Bringing it up in conversations, not just sharing it is great, but tagging people or really showing the people that you think would love to read it or would love to support it. There's been a lot of support coming in from translators. I'm also, no matter how this goes, I'm going to be very open to helping people who have supported the book and have their own crowdfunding dreams. I've learnt a lot, so I will be willing to share that for sure. And try and support other people chasing their own dreams as well. Yeah, I'm like, if there's no other questions, I might leave it here, because I'm not really sure anyone wants to listen to me talking for an hour. But yeah, I guess like one thing I wanted to show is in the back of this book. Yeah, so, and I've heard from quite a few people that this is the section they like looking at. So in the back of this book, it's got all the people that were members of Saro no Kuni Onde Koza and the years that they joined and left, and changing into Kodo. So it's got all the performers and then all the staff. up until April 2011. And so, yeah, the list starts in 1968 with Tagayasu Den, who was the original leader of Saronaku Nihon de Koza. And it goes all the way through, and I'm like super happy that, oh, can you see that? Yeah, my name's here in the book towards the end from 2007 that I was in there. And I love the next page has got apprentices in it up until that time. Sorry, I'm having issues with figuring out where the camera goes, but this is all people that completed the apprentice program without joining the group. And yeah, just, you know, seeing the names. The ones in English really pop. And I think I'm also excited to see them all in English because, you know, then we may find that there's people that we know who were members of the group that we didn't actually realize, and, you know, cheer on their activities or learn more from them as well. Yes, if the book, thanks for your question, Jess. If I reach the target, I will be printing the book, so selling the book, I should say. It will be available as an ebook, and it will be available as a print-on-demand book. I do not know how much it will cost. I don't know how many pages it's going to be. I've tried to figure this out, but it's quite difficult because the Japanese book, as you can see, so for example, you can see that this book has very small font and a lot of footnotes. So they've really crammed in a lot of information. I want to make this not only accessible in English, but I would like to make it larger font so that it's easier for people to read. People with, you know, vision issues, but also just older people in general. So it will have more pages for sure. Usually when you translate Japanese into English, it's 2.5 times the length. But because this has like so much small font, so like even the indexes at the back, I think Japanese people have a higher tolerance for small font. And I'm going to increase the font size. I want it to be a comfortable read. So the ebook, it doesn't matter how many pages there are, I will make that a very comparable price to other books. If this is funded, that I definitely want that to be easily accessible. The print-on-demand book, it will depend how much, I don't know how much it's going to cost, but it will be available. And I'm not going to put a large profit on it. This campaign doesn't cover all of the costs, but above that, rather than this, I don't expect to sell a lot of copies, and I would like for it to be easy to buy, so I will definitely be making it as low a price as possible, if that helps. Signed copies, I am actually thinking of like, yeah, I was thinking about this yesterday. We can't do signed copies for everyone, for sure. The reason is that this is a print-on-demand book, which means that it will be printed and sent directly to people. Sending it to Sado and then sending it to the people, I'm like, I don't like that from a carbon footprint perspective at all. I do realize that people would like to have a signed copy, so I'd encourage people to take their book to a Kodo concert or to a Kodo, you know, to Sado when they visit for a celebration. But I would like to arrange, I'm not sure, maybe 3 copies that will be available. Like, I'm trying to think if all the people that probably bronze to platinum supporters, if I put all of their names into a hat and pull out 3, and I'll arrange for 3 signed copies, that those would be like something that people could win if they have contributed to this. Yeah, I definitely like to do that. It's difficult to find a time when all of Kodo are on the island at the same time. So it would be trying to get as many as possible, but not. Yeah, I realize I wouldn't be able to get everyone. It's an awesome trip for excuse for a trip to Japan. I think there's something when you receive a signed copy of something as opposed to when you get someone to sign it for you, that's completely different. Like, I think, being able to actually meet people and ask them to sign it for you, that's like next level, right? And at Celebration, it's very easy to do that. They have EC shop, like a Celebration shop, and the performers usually have a performance there, and you'll see them around as well. So I think it would be easy to get your book signed. Yeah. Right. If there's no other questions, I think I'll wrap it up here. Yeah, I'm thinking, I, yeah, I don't really know how to how to explain what I was trying to what I was trying to say about you know a lot of taiko groups are kind of like taken their style from Kodo, but it's also Kodo also is inspired by taiko groups around the world. Everyone loves watching each other's work and learning from each other. So I really hope this encourages other people to like share their, foreign taiko groups or overseas based taiko groups to share their story in Japanese so that people in Japan can learn about their group or their activities. I really hope that it's not just please learn from Kodo, but rather let's all share and join this conversation together. Watch each other's performances. The same goes for all music and arts. Get inspired, learn, ask questions, chat. Yeah, I really hope that this is one of those conversation starters and one of those ways that people can learn something new from a company that really wanted to share their story and simply didn't have the budget to try and get a book translated, which I totally understand. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for listening this far. And thank you very much for chatting with me in the chat, in the comments. I look forward to hearing from you. I've got 10 days to go. There's a long way to go. So if you're able to share this project, I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, see you. Bye.